Welcome everybody. This is the Life Enthusiast Health Hangout. I'm your co-host Scott Patton, and joining me as usual is the health coach at Life Enthusiast, Martin Patella. Hey Martin, how you doing?
Hi Scott, doing great. Today I would like to invite to join us the president of Activation Products, Ian Clark. Ian, are you with us?
Hey Martin, how you doing? Hi Scott.
Hi.
Great. Activation Products is one of those upstanding, outstanding, out-of-the-ordinary companies. They have products that you don't find anywhere else in quality that is unusual, better than, you know, it's the typical Life Enthusiast story. Ian comes to us like many other revolutionaries in the alternative health movement with his own story of perhaps problems and overcoming those and finding a whole new way of dealing with health. Maybe Ian could tell us a few things about that himself. Yes?
Yeah, well, it's been about 10 years. I started back in '04 at the age of 46, and I'm 56 here coming up in June. I had a very long list of problems identified by the medical world. They were all associated with being allopathically minded as well as mainstream minded on all the wrong foods and not getting the proper rest and stressing myself out, etc. You know, typical things that a mid-40-year-old guy goes through when he's trying to feed a family of 7 children. And so, but you know, I really wasn't doing a whole lot different than my peers, and they weren't having the issues I was. So I couldn't figure that out. And when I went to the doctors, and I even went to specialists, and my oldest brother was a medical doctor for 37 years, from all of their advice, I was told that there was no way out other than surgery and the drugs they were prescribing. And none of them could tell me the reasons for my health demise, other than I was a statistic, and it was, you know, not that uncommon for men my age to have heart conditions and liver disease and kidney gallbladder problems, and the list goes on and on.
Don't you just hate being normal?
Yeah, well,
they just tell you, well, this is normal, right?
Well, yeah, they were scaring me, and the thing was, I had a precursor to all that, which was both of my uncles on my mom's side passed at the age of 51 and 54, both of cancer. One had thyroid cancer, one had liver cancer back in 1978, and they died 2 days apart in that year. So I remembered that, and they, you know, I looked like my Uncle Don, my mom's younger brother, and which was not comforting, because I think there is a significant amount of genetic predisposition to a lot of things. And when you are compromised easily, then you have to take extra precautions and become more careful with how you treat your own health. And the tendency that I had was I like to blame everybody for everything except for not me. So I caught myself doing that and said, hey, that's, you know, that's like the most uncool thing, period. And I think I had a very strong suspicion that everything that was wrong with me was caused by things I was doing, not the things the doctors couldn't do, or et cetera, or genetics. I just felt it was me. And as it turned out, that's what the problem was.
Yes, and this is the revolutionary moment that we're always hoping that our clients will also have. I mean, I had one of those moments myself, but it is when they realize that the change is in their control, that they don't have to be a passive, accepting client of the medical system, that instead they could change the course of where their trajectory is sending them. Like I usually say, well, we know where the road's heading. Are you going to stay on this particular path, or are you going to change?
Right. So, you know, everybody, you know, I think most men that hit the wall as hard as I did in my 40s definitely pass. And we don't hear from them. We don't hear about, you know, how they got there, because they're not here to talk anymore. And I knew that I could easily become one of those statistics. And I watched many people, you know, it was like the 12-step protocol. The doctor says you have this, this, and this. This is the diagnosis. This is the prognosis. You do this, this, and this. And we will extend the funeral time out as far as we can, but we don't know exactly how long. But it's like the 12-step protocol to a funeral. And I just thought, why would I take advice from somebody that had the end result of death at an early age? Doesn't make any sense to me. So I've just seen too many people go down that road, and don't they care about their life? They've never died before. They don't know the experience, and if they believe in 1,000 lives, that's their business. But realistically, nobody's really experienced it, and it's not a very pleasant thing to think about at an early age when you have so many responsibilities. You're not finished your journey. You've got to get with it. And I think the worst part of it was realizing that I'd sown all the seeds to reap a very ugly harvest for many years. And I wasn't going to be able to get out of it. I had to reap every single thing that I had sown for a period of time. At the same time, being in the thick of the battle, I had to begin sowing good seeds in every area I could, knowing that I wasn't going to reap them very soon either. So it was about 5 years between '04 and '09 that were a massive struggle. And there was all kinds of damage done to my system that had to be stopped, further damage, trying to repair the damage, and then try to rebuild from there. So fortunately, I was very successful at that. But I did compromise myself. So there are still things that I have to, watch out for, and I can't just throw care to the wind anymore.
Right. Yeah, we call it the cracked jar. Once you crack it, you can glue it back together, but it's never as good as new.
Right.
I have the same thing. I'm driving a damaged body.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, are we smart. So somewhere along the way, you were really lucky, or at least I don't know, maybe it's luck, maybe it's by design, but you came upon a number of technologies that were quite unique that got you to create the activation products that they are of today, right?
Right. Yeah, I call it divine providence because there were too many things that came up and too many signs that showed up from a supernatural standpoint that wouldn't have happened just by chance. So there's no way that, out of 7 billion people on the earth and the noise and the confusion that is in the natural space, to be able to get to the people that can really help you when you have serious problems. It wasn't just, basic health stuff. We were talking about life-threatening things that had to be dealt with at a very crucial moment in a very specific manner. So I just saw that happen. And one of the greatest lessons that I learned along the way was that I didn't want to get caught chasing my tail for too long because there were so many things wrong that if I started to address each individual issue, it would have taken forever to deal with those. And I was told, well, just find a way to reset your system. You've got to go back to foundational foods. You've got to go back to the basics. Once you get those done, and I thought I could get it done in a year or 2 years. It took 5 years. Most people, I think, are 1 to 2 years, and they'll see results every day and every week. And then once that reset is done, and I've got the foundational stuff that basically works across the board for everybody, then you drill down into the individual remaining issues that are much easier to deal with at that point. And everything went back to original seeds. The marine phytoplankton, original seed of the ocean, these specific seeds from the land that we're now dealing with. The only one that wasn't the seed was the magnesium product that was able to bring my magnesium levels up quickly transdermally, which I found was amazing. But anyway, that's...
Okay, so Ian, if you were to sum it up in a couple of minutes, how would you introduce activation products?
Well, activation products was born from the need to get to the definitive now. So this cut to the chase. It goes good, great, greater, and greatest. And we put a filter gate up to where only the greatest things were allowed to come through because there are so many other diverse things that are out there that are super good for people, but we can't deal with all of them. So my goal was to just supply those things that were across the board good for everybody and that everybody could benefit from. They didn't have to be a super unique individual to have them. And that's where we went. And that's why we have a small product line. We don't have, and the other product lines that are out there with other companies are definitely wonderful, and I use other things than what my company makes. But we, that's how you sum it up because we are the foundation people. We hit the deep levels of foundation for people to reset their systems.
Indeed, and you have some spectacular products based on some innovative technologies, right?
It's all out of Europe. Everything we have is European genius, from Germany to Spain. Primarily, those are our two places. But yeah, just genius, literally, because we know in Europe there's mainstream medicine that they have the same problems we have here. But when you go into Europe, what I noticed was that when you go to that niche market, that high end of research, they appear to be 10 to 15 years ahead of us in many ways. So we tapped into that. Fortunately, I didn't intend to tap in it. I mean, I went to California and got redirected over to Europe. It's very interesting.
So one of the products is the Oceans Alive.
Right. That's the key. That's our key base, all-encompassing product. And that one has gone through hundreds of iterations in the 7-year period, going closer and closer and closer to the highest quality heirloom strain that we started with through a genetic selection process, and being able to control and manage how much sunlight, how much CO2, how much oxygen off-gassing, all those things that are computerized and monitored to create a perfect atmosphere, natural atmosphere for the marine phytoplankton to proliferate itself in and produce the highest quality possible of that heirloom strain. So it's like the opposite of genetic modification. It's going deep into the original creation and selecting the absolute definitive strains that are the highest benefit for human health.
So at the end of this selection process, you found the most appropriate or the most health supporting, or how would you define them?
Well, I didn't do the research, fortunately, because I'm not a scientist, but the people that were very high level scientists and had a passion and a drive to look deep into the cell in that universe. It's a microscopic universe and it goes into the nano universe. They were willing to spend their entire lives from the time they discovered the strain in 1982 to 20 years to get the photobioreactor built to from 2002 to 2014 today. The world has changed dramatically. And in the last 2 years, we saw most of the advancements come where these researchers had major funding that came behind them to empower this, to take this to the world and really affect change, because it no longer became about being able to make a living or have a business that was profitable. It was about, we all know that that's essential to help anybody. You have to be successful in your business in order to grow. But now they're at a stage where it's going into an exponential curve of value add to the client by going deep into the cell, seeing what the nutritional molecules are inside these strains of marine phytoplankton. If we started with just one, now we have 2 strains. And it's been discovered 57 different nutritional molecules that they can't even find a match for in history. So they're into a new frontier with this nutritional molecule at a nano level of nutrient that is going to be groundbreaking when all the science comes out. So they are not releasing the scientific information until all the patents are in place. So there's things I can't talk about today that I'm on a non-disclosure until they release that info. But I assure you that what's coming is very exciting. And it's not based on extracts, it's based on a natural, original nutrient that powers the whole earth by supporting all the life in the ocean and providing 70 to 90% of the oxygen we're breathing. But that's not the exciting part. The exciting part is the cross-section of all of the nutritional profile. It has everything imaginable in it to support life at the highest levels without having an inflammatory response when it's consumed, because this is instantly digestible and assimilated into the system without energy required to do so, like eating a meal where you have most of it's going to go through as a waste product. This has almost nil waste to it when it's used in your body.
So what does it do in the body once you ingest it? How does it get assimilated? What does it affect?
Well, it affects everything from the Krebs cycle to your oxidative stress removal to brain function, nervous function. It has so many different broad spectrum benefits, because really your human operating system wants the colors of the rainbow. For pigments, it wants all the amino acids, essential fatty acids. It wants all the plant minerals, all the ionic trace minerals, polysaccharides and enzymes, and all of those things are contained in here, plus many, many, many other nutritional molecules that they had not heard of. So they found over 100 different nutritional molecules inside the cell, and as I said, 57 of which they're just looking, they haven't found a match. I don't know if they will. It'll be just a new frontier of different nutrients that are going to have a function in the human body. But we have flown by the on our chairs in front of our computer, just simply getting it out to the market, convincing people this is an absolute must to have as a foundational nutrient. And we've watched the results in people's health with testimonies that are rolling continuously. And it's everything from significantly better brain function, cognitive ability, better sleep, better vision, better operating in general, like an energy level inside the body that appears to be charging up the cell with residual energy that can be tapped into as needed. So like charging up a battery. So you have a different feel, a different level of strength and vitality in your system. I had never experienced anything like that before. And when I was young, I felt great, worked on the rigs. You know, when you're 21 years old, you feel pretty good. But I guesstimated that the way I felt when I finally got up to speed in about 2010, I went, man, I feel better than I can remember in my life. Having more energy, more vitality. I didn't look young, but I certainly had reversed a tremendous amount of age out of my life where I had rapidly aged. And I just see these things as the cleanest fuel you can put in your system with the broadest spectrum, allowing your body to get back to your biological age, matching your chronological age. So I'm not like a 46-year-old in an 80-year-old body. I'm now a 56-year-old coming in a 56-year-old body, aging one day at a time instead of 3 or 4 days at a time, rushing to my grave. So, you know, the whole object was to slow the aging, decaying process down to the maximum slowness possible and make your life stand out with the highest quality possible every day. And so we've really achieved that, and we're continuing to get more of that as we go.
All right, great. How much of it would you recommend people take, and and how?
Right. Well, generally, it comes in a liquid form. So all of our products are liquid, and the key ingredient in our marine phytoplankton product is the raw, fresh harvested Ocean's Live paste. It's so thick and concentrated when it comes out of the centrifuge, and it's living cells, living what they call somewhere between a plant and an animal cell, but it's a microalgae. It is holding all that life energy in there, and we have an intellectual property that stabilizes that instantly in a very concentrated, purified solution that has the sodium chloride. So it just instantly stabilizes it. We have bottles that are 5 years old that smell and taste as fresh as the day they were made. So the way that we like to see people take it is what makes them pleasing to their palate. So, you know, if they like pineapple juice, they put it in pineapple juice. Tastes great to them. If they don't like pineapple juice, maybe they like coconut water. But it's an individual thing because the concentrated liquid is very strong. You know, the real soldiers, you know, they'll put it right under their tongue and it'll be straight up. I don't particularly like that. I've done that many times if I'm in a hurry. But I don't favor the taste that way. It's quite intense. And I just think people need to make it enjoyable for themselves. And so people figure it out and they just take it in coconut water. Some people love the ocean flavor taste. They just take it in a glass of water. And it's anywhere from 1 drop. People get a buzz from 1 drop or up to 15 drops, which is like 1 drop per full. That would be to me, that's the minimum maintenance dose. People that are in intense projects that have to work very hard, using a lot of their brain power throughout the day, they need to have up to 5 dropperfuls, even 75 drops. They just, you know, throughout the day, they just keep fueling up their brain. So it's really an individual thing, but, you know, I would say a minimum 15 drops, and there's no big zooming rush from the stuff. There's no stimulant in it. It's a tonic food, right? So it's going to come in and give you real energy. It's not going to jack you up and drain your brain and your bones and whack your adrenals. It's going to do the exact opposite. So people need to be patient, and they need to check in where they are now before they begin, and check in on a daily basis as they go. And generally within 90 days, people have a significant difference in their life as far as their quality, cognitive ability, and so on.
Great. And one of the questions that I keep getting from people is, oh, but it's algae, it's in the ocean. I'm so worried about the pollution in the ocean, the radiation, and all of that.
Yeah, which is a very legitimate concern. I don't know what the numbers are coming in from Fukushima. You hear all kinds of conflicting information there, and it could be very, very bad. It doesn't have any effect on us. The reason for that is because we're not able to harvest this from the ocean. The ocean is very contaminated, and the ocean is more and more contaminated the closer you get to the surface. So marine phytoplankton grows right at the surface all over the world. And there's 40-some thousand strains. You cannot go and select a single strain out of the ocean and hope to harvest it. Not only that, you can't control the quality of the strain that way. So the way that it works with the photobioreactor, and they had to go to hundreds of different iterations to get they went to every length imaginable to purify the ocean water through 2.5 kilometers of sand that they pull the ocean water through. It comes up a well, it goes in through a UV ozone treatment. It is microfiltered. It doesn't have anything in there except for perfect ocean water. At that point, they autoclave it. It goes into the photobioreactor in the lab. They take the heirloom strain, they inoculate it. It goes all the way through the system until it gets out into the sunlight, but it's all in it's what's called a sealed photobioreactor. So there's not even any contamination allowed from normal environmental contaminants that you would get just from, the tire rubber dust that falls all over us all year long, and the raw fuel from the jets and all that stuff, and the chemtrails. All that is not a factor because everything is sealed, and you can't allow any bacterial growth in there. You've got to be very specific, and if you do not watch every single part of that all the way through to completion, it's not like chlorella and spirulina where it just grows in ponds and away it goes. This is a very high-end microalgae. And you have to, it's every second of the day, 24 hours a day for the entire 90-day growth cycle. They know how much oxygen is being off-gassed, how much sequestered pure CO2 is being injected in. It's X amount of sunlight, certain speed and flow rate, certain temperature, certain pH. All those things have to be exact. And when they went through all the iterations to determine how you're going to get the highest possible quality, they are able to manage that and control it to degrees that you and I don't even want to think about. It's so complex. So that eliminates any possible radiation, any possible contamination. There's no heavy metals. It is altogether the purest product in the world, far more pure than anything organically grown out in the open in the fields.
Right on. There we have it. One of the most concentrated, most nutrient-rich, most pure products nutritionally available to us today.
So, Ian, I was wondering if it'd be possible for you to share a couple stories of some of the people that you've introduced the Ocean's Alive product to, and what their experience has been.
It really depends on the people that we have, because it's such a big cross-section of society. There's everything from people that don't do anything for their health. They know nothing about health. They're just, like I was years ago, just doing whatever everybody else does. And you give that, they don't even want to take it. They're not that interested. And we like those people because we've had some people in the local area that we had access to on a personal basis. Because the people that are out there in the cyber world that buy it from us direct to consumer, we have a lot of different testimonies there that we can talk about in a second. But just to hit the definitive, we've seen it as Ocean's Alive as being the primary activator. And that's where the name of the company came from, Activation Products, because we saw them get all these switches got turned on wanting to get more healthy. Before that, they were smoking and drinking and being with their buddies and laughing at people that were trying to be healthy, to completely changing, going, wow, what is that stuff? I'm thinking differently. And they would stop smoking, and they would start thinking about health, and they would start trying to share it with their friends, and they would get laughed at, and it didn't matter. And then after 3, 4, 5 weeks, they changed so much that their friends are going, what are you guys doing? Oh, well, I actually want some of that. That's pretty cool. You guys, your skin's looking more nicer. You got a nice glow to you. All the stuff that was happening with them. So that's the fun ones, that you can really have some fun with. Really giving the product to them. They wouldn't even buy it to start with. And then, of course, now they've been on it for many years. But that's the first level. Most of our clients are more advanced health people that are out searching online. And they may have a specific thing that's bothering them. So we've had some extreme cases that we could never publish the information on with diabetes that was completely remediated. And I have no idea why it did that, because that does not happen with people that have diabetes in general. But just certain people have certain deficiencies. And when it fills those gaps, big things happen in their life. We've had people that claim they got rid of their glasses. But I would say the greatest amount of feedback is primarily mental energy. That's where you're really seeing the people getting the traction. They're saying, listen, I remember stuff. I can think way faster. When I get information, I remember better. I can store it. I can access information. It just makes them a lot sharper. And there are a lot of products on the market that claim cognitive ability, but I've never seen anything that worked at the level this does, because the nanonutrition gets right through the blood-brain barrier. Amino acids, the essential fatty acids going in and filling the gaps. And your brain is greedy. If your brain is nutrient lacking, it'll take all of that to start with. So people, and then once their brain is happy, it goes right through the rest of their body and fills all the rest of the gaps. So that's the most part, is people just have a much better experience in life. And as people get older, they need that support more and more for their memory, cognitive ability, and sharpness. So that's the big one.
Very cool.
I can actually confirm this thing for myself, by myself. Having taken the Oceans Alive, I know that when I take a bigger dose of it, my recall ability is improved. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. It's I think it not only is your cognitive ability that you notice consciously, but really your brain is running everything silently. They say there's up to 1 trillion functions a second happening just to keep us here alive, just sitting here looking through our eyes. So many things happening at a biochemical level and through biophoton communication. So we have been tapped into things in Europe right now that they're looking into really how the body runs, because we know we've got interstitial fluid communication, we've got electrical communication, but the above all one is biophoton communication, where the cells have to communicate at the speed of light, because there's so many things happening just to keep your eyes running. They say by closing your eyes, you're conserving 40% of your physical energy just from closing your eyes. So all of the trillions of bits of information that are going in, we just would blow our minds if we really knew what was running the show. So Command Central, working better, is going to be able to monitor all systems at a much higher level when you get that communication network reestablished, and get the junk out of the way and get those crystals back inside the cell, because they really, and this is at the top level of medical science. This is not some woo-woo lab out over in Europe. This is high-tech German engineers and scientists and doctors who have found out how the things are really working. So, they're doing all kinds of stuff with light technologies and frequencies and all that stuff. And that all ties into what we're talking about, because, the Oceans Alive microalgae does not eat anything, nor is it eaten. So it comes to us in its original form. It is a foundational food. It soaks up sunlight. It consumes minerals from the ocean. It consumes CO2 and produces a significant volume of EPA, which is the essential fatty acid that's the fuel for your brain. As the nano has a low amount of DHA. You get DHA from other areas for the structure of the brain. But the fuel that your body is running on is EPA, which is a long name I'm not going to pronounce. But where does it come from? There's no oil in the sun, like that we know of. There's no oil in sea minerals, and there's no oil in CO2. But these things produce oil. So where does that come from? And it's never been consumed before. So if you go for fish oil, you've got 5 layers of the food chain to get to that fish oil. It goes from a nanonutrient in the phytoplankton up into as a phospholipid, and then it keeps going up, and 90% of the value of it is used up by whatever consumes it. So by the time it gets up to a fish oil, it's as a triglyceride. It's a macronutrient, no longer nano. It's not even micro, and it is changed many times and consumed many times, even though it's accumulated. So to me, if we don't need those conduits. We can go straight down to the original foundational food, get it into our system. I think it's infinitely more effective going to that foundational food, to something that's never been touched before, and you get to consume it right out of the gate.
Oceans Alive. Why not have some?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, people just, all they got to do is just get it in them. That's the big thing. We just say, look, just, at trade shows, we have some of one of the distributors down in the States. We don't do trade shows ourselves because we sell direct to consumer, but at these shows, what they do is they just give them one dose. They have, in it some juice, and they say, here, take this, and just come back in 10 minutes. Tell us what you think. And everybody comes back and goes, okay, what is that stuff? And they just have a fantastic day. And that's how they have sold thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are loyal to this day consuming the product and have stayed on auto ship and go back to their web stores and go back to the stores in the States to sell it and buy it continuously. So it has a great stick rate. Our only issue was, Martin, that we couldn't get enough supply. As you know, we were running out of supply too often, and this is the first year that the financing was available in Europe, which it doesn't come from us, but it's produced for us, and they have got major financing behind them now to be able to produce this. And once they had perfected it, got it to that maxed out level of quality, now they're happy to produce as much as is needed for the world. So we now have enough to supply millions of people coming up in the next 2 to 3 years.
That's pretty amazing.
Great. Great. So I would like to switch gears now and take you into the world of the oils.
Mm-hmm.
You have what's your relationship with this technology? And you're calling it Panacea,
right?
Which is a wonderful play on words, seeds and panacea,
right?
And could you describe the technology and what you do and why you do it?
Yeah, well, it took me quite a while to catch on. I met Andreas in 2009, briefly, and then I ran into him again and again down at the market in Venice. He was at that Rossum market Wednesdays and Saturdays, and he was this slim little blonde-haired, blue-eyed, very happy little German guy. And when I first got to know him, he was a little bit, withdrawn as far as who he really was. It turned out that he was an Olympic champion, was world renowned, won the men's gold in the high bar in 1996, and rode quite a wave for about 10 years. But when I met him, he was a very humbled guy, and he was just at this little market. He had this little tiny seed press, and he was pressing the seed oil. And he kept telling me, seed oils are very important for broad spectrum health. And he had health issues at that time still. And it took me until 2012 to really catch on to what was going on there. And when I took the oils, I didn't find them, I didn't take them consistently. I bought some from him, and everybody seemed to rave about them, but I just didn't catch on to that. And so I lost track of Andreas between about kind of the end of 2010 and leading up until I ran into him again in the end of 2012. So when I saw him again at the end of 2012 in California, I was very surprised at his appearance. And he was totally different looking. He was very athletic looking. He had perfect skin. His eyes were brilliant white. And I'd never seen anybody's eyes that had that kind of color and that brilliance. And I'm like, wow, what have you been doing? He says, well, it's all the seed oils. I told you when you came to see me, you're going to be very pleased with what I'm going to share with you. And his wife and his daughter were the same appearance. And so that caught my attention very much. And he said, well, everything technologically changed, because in 2009 when I first met him, he was using this little cold expeller press, which was just a standard cold expeller press. He said it was a little bit unique, but it was, he was pressing the oil. It had to go in the fridge. It had to be, it wasn't stable. And he had a lot of research done starting in 2005, seeking a way to press oil that wasn't damaging it so much, because in a standard cold expeller press, they can only come up to a certain amount of tonnage based on the mechanics at the head. And so when the raw seeds, even raw organic non-GMO seeds, are going through the head, it comes down to the end, and it takes about 10 seconds of mechanical grinding through a very restricted space where the oil finally comes out of the seeds. And depending on the type of seeds, it's more or less difficult to get the oil off the fiber of the seed. So what his quest was find a technology that could get it out instantly without damage, and it just was not available. There was nothing out there. He looked all over the internet. He's connected to people all over the world because of his previous connections, and he just hit a stalemate. So he kind of had given up more or less on that, and just said, well, we're just going to have to make it fresh, and people are going to have to take it right away. And that's how he had healed his body, was using flax oil. And he had Crohn's disease. He almost passed away of Crohn's disease. You can see it on the website, his story. But he just used flax oil, but it didn't fix the Crohn's. It just stopped the bleeding and got enough nutrition into his system that he was able to survive. In April of 2009, He woke up at 2 in the morning, about 2 in the morning, he said. Didn't have an exact time, but woke up and he had what we would call an inventor's vision, which he believes that God showed him the exact mechanical layout of equipment to press seed oil perfectly. He hooked that information up. He drew a picture of it and got that information to a mechanical engineer in Germany who's nothing less than a sheer genius. So that, and both of them are genius level, period. I mean, both of them always, they never cease to amaze me. So the two of them together, just the synergy of those two combinations, one that could put the actual machinery together and the guy that had the vision of it with the belief that you could do this perfectly, between the beginning of 2010 and the middle of 2012, they had perfected all of these different seed oils. And the final one that changed Andreas's life permanently was the coriander seed oil that he pressed. And it took him from December of 2011 until August of 2012 to figure that one out. And there's literally hundreds of experiments with time and pressure and speed and temperature and all these things that you have to look at when you're doing each seed to get the perfect oil coming out. When he perfected the coriander seed oil in August of 2012, he took copious amounts of it, equivalent to at least $1,000 retail worth of the product himself in about 32 days. So he did crank a lot of it into his system, consuming it right off of the press as he was going through this production. He said in 32 days, all of his Crohn's symptoms were totally gone. And he believes that they were related to, of course, leaky gut and heavy metals and yeast overgrowth, candida, whatever you want to call it. But those things that are extremely irritating to the digestive system. So today he can eat whatever food he wants and it does not rush through his body like it used to. And then he began to absorb all the nutrients because his digestion was working correctly. And he started doing chia seed oil for himself. He said without even exercising, because of his original muscle memory of being like a little Hercules when he was an Olympian, it was about halfway back without having to do a bunch of exercise, just from muscle memory. And of course, working out, you have to work out to build muscle normally. But there was something very unique about that. And so he was telling me all about this. And I'm like, okay, all right, this is a major breakthrough. I said, Andreas, you've got pure gold coming out of these machines for people's health. It's just the ultimate, most valuable thing you could supply to somebody for their health. And I believe that you've been given this. This is a gift, and you're a steward of this, and it's your responsibility to get it to the world. I believe that I met you for a very specific purpose and reason, that I am being invited to be a part of this, and I want to do whatever I can to support it. So it was very, very small. This is in December of 2012 by this point. And he had one press. So immediately we began to source seeds, and we got 2 more presses and got them all set up. We moved from Southern California up to Oregon last October. It took a lot of effort, a lot of time to get everything in place and get it dialed in. And now we're able to produce a marginal amount down in that. We can do about 1,000 bottles a day down there in that facility. And when we rolled it out last August. The first product we rolled out was the 5 seed blend, because we wanted to get the most important seed oils out that would cover the most number of bases for health and be an affordable oil without having to get people to buy all these oils. So I'd asked Andreas, what do you think the most important foundational seed oils are? And he goes, well, give me a few days. I'll think about it. So he got back with me. He said, okay, flax oil saved my life. So that's number 1. Sunflower seed oil for the vitamin E. Black sesame seed oil for the kidney. Coriander seed oil for the heavy metal pulling and the candida removal. And pumpkin seed oil for the kidneys, or for the prostate and the urinary. And so I said, okay, cool. And then I said, well, just give me the list of everything. So he's going through this whole list of all these things that all these seed oils are going to do. And I said, Andreas, it's going to be too confusing. That people need to get their head around things. It's too big of a list. I said, what you've got is a panacea. And he said, what's that? Because he's a German and he's not familiar with that particular term. I said, well, a panacea is like a cure-all. And then it just dawned on me, we're going to call the product Panacea. And so that's where the name was born. And we laughed about that because it was actually true. But it's a play on words, obviously. And he said, I said, well, let's press those 5 seed oils and let's mix them all up and put them in a bottle and sell them so that people can just buy one bottle. He said, no, I'll do far better than that. He said, I will go through and figure out how to get this blend. I'll get the exact ratios right. We'll put them all together. We'll press them into one molecule. And that took him a couple of weeks, and it was done. And then it took us until August. So from December through to August of 2013 to get into production with that in order to have enough in stock that we could do a little launch online. And immediately all those bottles sell out every time. So we produce, it sells out, produce, and we're still at that stage, and we've ramped it up significantly since then. So that was the first one. And we have seen all kinds of, just rave response from our clients of all kinds of weird stuff that they had for years that went away. And it just goes on and on like that. I don't want to get into that right at the moment, but there's other things. Would you like me? No. The most important thing of this whole thing, just to make it very definitive, is that the technology to press the seed oils without damage is the key to the whole thing. Therefore, we have the mechanical technology, the intellectual property, and the ability to produce oil that's instantly released from the seed, no matter what the seed is. So it just has a slightly different approach with the same equipment to get that oil out, and it has to come out within a fraction of a second. There is no mechanical grinding of any sort that happens when this is being pressed. And even like hydraulic presses and all the different press technologies that are out there, all the different extraction technologies, all do more or less damage to the seed oil. And
so this is actually revolutionary.
Oh, it's major. It's a world changer for sure. It's totally revolutionary. And it's not only just the equipment, it's the whole mechanical advantage is great, but to have somebody that's as dedicated as Andreas has been to be laser focused, regardless of whether he wasn't making much money or not. And just keeping, he said, the same discipline that he got the men's gold in the high bar was the same discipline and focus that he used for all of those years to train up to get basically the gold medal in the seed oils. And that's what he's done to get that. And his whole motive was to be able to supply something to people that had infinite value for their health, was bioavailable, it wasn't going to go off, wasn't going to be harmful to their system. We put it in the most expensive packaging you can get because that is, again, exponentially valuable to make sure that it's stable inside that mirror and glass. The oil is already a stable oil coming out of the press. We know that we're delivering the super value to the people. And it's a great joy to be able to know that you're doing those really, really high level things. And it met the standards of activation products criteria to be a part of the product line. So we consider ourselves most fortunate that we have run into Andreas and this mechanical engineer in Germany, and we're able to get that out. If you see anybody pressing Amaranth oil, about 90 to 95% of that oil is sunflower oil because they can't even get their equipment to run. We can press pure, 100% pure Amaranth seeds and get the oil out of them. Everybody, if they even press for 15 minutes, first of all, it would just bind up the machine. It would wreck their equipment, and the oil would be so burnt to death you could never use it. But yet we can press for 24 hours a day. So that says itself, right there for the mechanical advantage. So that's what we're most excited about, is this ability to get that oil and not hurt it.
I guess we should really try and explain a bit about oils and the more valuable, fragile, simpler fatty acids. Like there are these, the shorter chain, the longer chain, the unsaturated, and so on. I mean, the science of it is that when you go to a grocery store, when you buy some vegetable oil that's sitting on the shelf in a clear bottle, it says on the label, refined vegetable oil. And the point of that is that they had to refine stuff out of it so it doesn't smell and taste rancid. And that's probably the most important part of the oil that you should get but aren't getting when you're using a grocery store vegetable oil.
Right. Yeah, well, people are very familiar with seed oils because there's billions of dollars worth of seed oils produced around the world. I don't know what the numbers are, but it's way up in the billions. And it's all refined, and they have to refine it to make sure it's not going to harm the person that's using it. There are oils out there. There's a lot of olive oils. I think there's a pretty high knowledge base on the fact that most of that olive oil is pumice oil. It is not good quality. I don't care if it says organic or otherwise, or extra virgin, whatever. We haven't found that to be of high quality. We don't do olive oil ourselves, but I found olive oils that were outstandingly pure and perfect. And they're few and far between. There's only 2 that I actually know of. And we're not involved in that business, but just that alone tells you a pretty major story, because there's a lot of olive oil sold as being good, you know. So yeah, those oils that they use for cooking and various other use they're missing any therapeutic value. I think using coconut oil is wonderful for cooking if you're going to, or there's rice bran oil and those different things that are better than something that's going to be damaged from a flashpoint being exceeded. But the therapeutic side of the oils, that's where you're really getting into the sensitivity part. And any of the oils that are produced with normal cold expeller pressing have to be refrigerated, and they're even going off in the refrigerator, so they're volatile. And all the different types of fats we are actually no longer concerned about, because people look at what's the ratio of 3, 6, and 9. I mean, that applies when you're talking about adulterated oils. It applies when you're talking about people just thinking about omegas. You know, omegas are important, but what's more important is that they're not damaged, number one. So they're not adulterated, they're unadulterated, and each oil has a spectrum of nutrients that are being delivered through that mechanism of the omega fatty acids. Because all of these have, you know, various amounts of 3, 6, and 9, but every oil has a different function in the body. Why is that? Because there's all these different rainbow of nutrients, rainbow spectrum, that are doing different functions, and that's why we have the 5C blend, and that's why the black cumin is entirely different. Even though you can find many similarities in the omega realm of saturated and unsaturated and polyunsaturated and all those things, I think a lot of that is being used for marketing hype to get people to think, oh, I should just go get fish oil, or oh, I should just go get flaxseed oil. And we don't like that kind of marketing. We just want to have people realize, wow, if you go to a seed which has a blueprint in it, and that blueprint is astounding, because this is a created seed that you plant it in the ground and it will make a plant that will produce thousands or even millions of seeds, like a chia seed, for example. What's with that? And so each seed that's on that plant has the potential to produce trillions of seeds into the future being planted. Well, that's a massive overabundance of seeds on the planet, and they're there for a reason. And what we believe is those are the reason for all that overabundance of those seeds is to get the nutritional information that your body requires. We call it information because it really is a frequency, it is a color, it is a spectrum of nutrients that your body uses intelligently to distribute various energies throughout your body and keep it as healthy as possible. So we just have a little different approach than what the normal marketing approach is in this stuff, because we are in the enviable position of having pristine, original, undamaged oils.
It's fantastic. We should probably explain how best to use it. So the Panacea, the 5 blend, a teaspoon a day, more? How much?
Well, yeah, if a person's having a teaspoon of that a day, they're getting more than they've ever had in their life as far as good oils. So to us, the more the merrier. Whatever they can mentally and financially afford, get it into their system. And if they can buy volume, you know, there's obviously discounts. So the key is to replace the incorrect fats that are in your system, the rancid fats that have been accumulated from eating potato chips and eating at restaurants and whatever. And your body has the innate intelligence to replace the fats with good fats as soon as it gets the opportunity, but it never gets the opportunity. So with the 5C blend, to me, the more the merrier. And we've, you know, I will admit that we have used in our family, because we have a large family, in one meal, we've actually gone through a whole bottle, which is pretty extreme. But it tastes so good that, and it goes with any meal, any cooked meal or raw meal or salad or anything, you put that on there, it enhances the flavor of everything. So, you know, we've done that. That's happened more often, you know, than most people would have it happen.
Right.
But as far as from a therapeutic individual standpoint, minimum 1 teaspoon. If they can afford 2 or 3, much better, because your body will pick it up faster. You can't overdose on it, and you just got to make sure that your system is not going to be overwhelmed with the oil with your digestive tract. And I could drink a whole bottle of that right now and never have to run to the bathroom. So It just depends on what level your system is at. So that's the 5-seed blend. The other oils have a completely different dynamic. You need small amounts of them, and they're a much higher end level of therapy, but more specific as well. It's not like a broad spectrum thing. Although the black cumin is really, we see the black cumin as that which goes in and is able to get rid of the toxins that come out of the mold, get rid of the mold itself, get rid of different microbes that shouldn't be there. We're not going to talk too much about that, but we know that our bodies can get overcome sometimes. So it takes that load off of the body so the immune system can do things it needs to do. And it is a nutrient too. I mean, a powerful nutrient. It is so much a powerful food when you take it that your appetite is immediately suppressed. You don't feel like you need to have food. So people have used that to cut out excess fat in their body because it's going after those nasties that are stored in the fat. The body drops the fat, and we've seen people do radical weight loss with that, even though we don't sell it as a weight loss product at all. We've seen it happen, and they didn't get sick. Because Martin, that you don't want to see people lose weight too quick, because if they do, too much toxins get released too quickly and it hits their liver and it's a problem. But I watched ridiculous radical weight loss with the black cumin and nobody got sick. So there's something major going on there. But to me, I think people should totally take it easy with that. We recommend, if people are really hypersensitive, very toxic, and their health is weak, a teaspoon of that in the morning to start with on an empty stomach with a bit of water behind it. It does have a medicinal taste to it. It will, for me, it was annoying for the first 2 weeks. I took that stuff. I'm like, man, I do not like that. First of all, I didn't like the taste. Number two, it was making my throat like feel raw, and it was irritating me. It was like, I couldn't describe any other word than annoying. Okay, and so I complained about that to Andreas. He said, "You've obviously got issues in your throat, and just wait. I don't know how long it's going to take, but usually it's about 2 weeks, and that will go away." With me, it took 3 weeks, but because I'd had sore throats continuously throughout my life. I'd taken penicillin at high dose. I'd had rheumatic fever when I was 1. I was pretty messed up, and I still have my tonsils. I'm thankful. But anyway, after about 3 weeks, it didn't bother me at all. I'm like, got through that. And so then basically it's a tablespoon in the morning with a little bit of water. And I have guzzled the black cumin to see what effect it would have on me, because we know that all the black cumin seed oils in the market have a warning on them to say no more than 2 teaspoons in a day because it's toxic. The reason it's toxic is because in their pressing technology, or how they extract, they're bringing forth the essential oils out of the black cumin, which is a toxin. We don't do that. None of that is produced. There's no mechanical causing a chemical reaction in our processing that puts any essential oil in the oil, so it's just straight up food. And I have actually guzzled a whole bottle in one shot. I'm not gonna. It was at the airport, and I had to because I left it in my briefcase. And I was queasy for about 30 minutes. I would never recommend anybody to do that. And it was the most, I didn't enjoy that at all. But I had, prior to that, consumed an entire bottle in one day just to see what it would do. And I just felt better and better and better throughout the day. And I know Andreas has consumed massive quantities of it. And anyway, that's the black cumin.
So that's the black cumin, right? This is the bottle, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal product, truly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, it's also known as the black seed, right? The black seed oil.
Yeah, Nigella sativa is the botanical name.
Yeah.
And it comes out of Egypt, and is it's just a really high end, and it's been known for back into all kinds of different scriptural texts of knowledge that it's really it is a broad spectrum. They say it cures everything but death. It doesn't do that, but that's just some fictitious legend thing. But it's certainly a very high end therapeutic oil.
Phenomenal. Okay, so what can you tell me about the Amaranth?
Well, the Amaranth was fun when we first got that one. We thought, this is going to be a skin product, because you can take it internally. It tastes amazing. It's super clean. It's 8% squalene. But what we found out was that there was the ability to go right into your recirculation system to your skin, and squalene has that ability. So, I had no clue you could even press Amaranth, or had never heard of Amaranth seed oil before it was introduced to me through Andreas. And they had never tried to press it before either. And so Dieter did some experiments and was able to make that happen. So we looked at that and said, well, they're killing thousands of sharks a day. They're chopping their fins off. They're pulling their livers out. They're dropping their bodies to the bottom of the ocean because the squalene in that oil is at 1.5% and it's so valuable, they're willing to go to that length. And these sharks are down like 3,000 feet in the ocean. They have these special cages and cables, and they're very advanced at catching these sharks with sonar and everything else. So this is a far higher quality squalene component. It's coming from a natural plant base. It's 8%, not 1.5%. And I noticed right away that when I put it on my skin, it was just softened it up and it changed my appearance. So there was actually quite a period of time in the last while that I didn't even have access myself because we could barely press enough to meet the demand, and it was crazy. It's just like the shoemakers, kids aren't in shoes. But it's been like that for us with the oils for a little while actually. But the problem is that the squalene is also discovered for pulling radiation out of the body, and there was different clinical trials where they were able to remove radiation. So that became more of a focal point, more over top of the skin, and we had not done the label correctly. So we made all these labels that talked about using it to massage it into your facial skin, and so all these bottles have gone out with that on the label as how to use it. But the best way is to put 1 dropper full under your tongue, and it's so concentrated. The amount of amaranth it takes to make just 1 dropper full is a significant amount, far more than you would eat in any meal. So in a daily basis, you're getting the essence of this everlasting little seed. That's what the amaranth means, is everlasting, into your system, fully bioavailable, and it's raw. Everybody else has to cook amaranth to consume it. Otherwise, it would just go right through you. You can grind it up. You're going to get, the oil's never going to release off the fiber. You're not going to get it. So cooking it is going to basically destroy the enzymes and hurt the oil, and you're going to get a benefit from eating amaranth. Because the output from the amaranth, we're trying to figure out how to package that up, because that's like a defatted flour, which also has nutritional benefits. But by far, I would say 90% of the benefit of the amaranth is in the oil, and that's the amaranth oil. So put it in your face. You consume it, and again, as much as you can afford to get it into your system.
So the main health benefits are in the soothing of the connective tissue somehow, or where would you point it?
Well, it's hydrating the skin. It is beauty from the inside out as well. It has a major cardiovascular benefit. I think if any, without getting into the whole iteration, but just type in health benefits from amaranth seed oil, and they're going to see a very long list of things that is going to benefit the body. Among them, radiation removal.
Okay, great. All right, well, let me ask you about this other one. I'm really excited about that. The coriander oil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the coriander seed is what the cilantro plant grows from. And this is a really interesting one because, as I said earlier, this is the one that Andreas used to completely eliminate the worst digestive issue you can have, which is Crohn's. Now, there's no way that we can say that it cures Crohn's because we don't know why that person has Crohn's. There could be multiple reasons why that person has Crohn's. But we do know that it is going to go after candida. We do know that it pulls heavy metal. But it has other benefits as well. It's been clinically proven to deal with 12 different antibiotic-resistant viruses. So it's an anti-pathogen. It has nutritional benefits. It tastes great. With ours, it has a very small amount of sunflower seed oil in it, about 10%. So we have a small amount as a carrier because the coriander, we can do straight coriander seed oil. The problem with it is it's a bit too strong in the taste, and a small amount of sunflower seed oil with it smooths it out and allows it to go into your system in a very gentle way, and that's the one that Andreas got the most success with. So he was able to we feel we can even get more value from the coriander seed, because a coriander seed, it's just a spice that you grind up. I mean, people look at that and go, there's no oil in there, but there's enough oil in there to make a huge difference. And when we press it, that's coming out. It's still strong. You've had it put it under your tongue, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 1 dropper full under the tongue in the morning, 1 dropper full under the tongue in the evening is the dose that's going to really get you some traction. Some people that I've given to, they start sweating from it, depending on how much mold they've got in the system, or candida rather, how much candida they've got, or if they have heavy metals. But, they just take it easy. There's no rush. And this stuff will work well. They don't have to be like Andreas guzzling bottles, because he really did. He was taking a large amount. I'm not going to tell somebody, oh, yeah, he just did 1 dropper full under his tongue twice a day. That's not what he did. He did a very large amount of that oil. So he's in a very preferential position. I guess if somebody wanted to try, we could do some kind of a special thing for them once we're into high production. Right now, we're still in limited production, but we have plans in Canada to begin producing a very large amount of the coriander seed oil. Yeah, there's your bottle.
There's the bottle. So it's a smaller bottle than the cumin or the 5-seed.
Yeah, that's 1/4 the size. That's a 50 ml.
Right.
Yeah, and it needs to be shaken. Like all the oils need to be shaken.
This is something that I have experienced. Even though I have shaken the oil really hard every time before I used it, I still ended up with thick, sludgy goo at the bottom of my 5-seed blend.
Oh, of the 5-seed blend. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a little different. Now, the 5-seed blend we purposely leave the finest of the finest sediment in the oil because we know there's a great nutritional value. Now, what I've known, I didn't get a hard caked stuff in there where I couldn't get it out. Is that what you're experiencing? Did you have to dig in there and try to?
It was left in the bottle, and when I decided to wash out the bottle after I drained all the oil out of it, I put water in it and I shook it, and all of a sudden I see all this brown, gray, gooey stuff in the water.
Right.
So there was probably 1/2 inch of sediment at the bottom of my bottle, even though every time before I use it, I shake it vigorously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, which is great. I mean, we always rinse our bottles out at the end, and we always want to get all that stuff out. I haven't seen that much come out, so that's interesting. That bottle may have sat for a couple of months before you got it. None of the bottles sit around for any time anymore, because when we first started pressing the 5-seed oil, we were pressing, and that was probably the first run, because that first year we never rolled it out till August. The oil's stable in the bottle for a minimum 3 years, but that would have probably been, we first started pressing the 5-seed oil in February of 2013 and never sold any until August. And we were pressing as fast as we could press with our limited production to build up inventory, because otherwise if you do at launch, it runs out in a day. So it took us about a week and a half when we were sold out of that first run. And then we went, wow, okay, this is a very popular product. We better get this thing going. Because we weren't even sure what the reception was going to be in the market, but they were outstanding. And then the people that got it wanted more. And that. So anyway, I don't think you're going to run into that anymore. Have you had any recent bottles that you had that kind of problem with?
No, this was from the first batch, for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, but anyway, every time they're done it, they should always get not hot water, but warm water. Warmer than body temperature, say 102, 103 degrees. Get in there and shake it really good and just drink it down to get every drop out of there. But the sediment, and I don't think you're going to experience too much of that with the coriander seed oil itself. But because when you shake it, it will come up, and it should be very dark when you're taking it, like a nice dark kind of a goldy brown.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful.
That's definitely my
running
favorite.
out of.
What's that?
I'm running out of questions.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm shaking the bottle.
Let's have a look at what's in that drop.
It's about to be revealed. Well, here's what it looks like.
Yeah, it's pretty dark.
Yeah. That's an awesome eyedropper. So you would dose this entire 20 drops all at once?
Well, that bulb is only 1 mil, so usually you have to squirt the bulb a couple of times to get it all the way out. But the bulb will normally pull up 15 drops. Yeah, the big thing, you got to make sure you don't get it in your clothes, because that's any oil in your clothes isn't much fun. But what I recommend people to do, just so if they're using the dropper, I do that because I'm used to it, and you are as well. But what happened, I've noticed sometimes people put the dropper to their mouth, they will touch their tongue with it, and that's not good. No. And the other thing that happens, they will drip it on their clothing. So what I like to see people do is just get a teaspoon and pour, even if they have a 200 ml bottle, just put it right to the edge and pour into the teaspoon, and they don't get a drip that way, because those bottles are almost like a medicine bottle, right? It's not like a traditional oil bottle. And there's a reason for that bottle not being a traditional oil bottle, because our oil is so strong, it will actually begin to dissolve the plastic on the pour spout. So that all of our seals are either glass or a very special rubber or a Teflon. So there's a Teflon seal in there. We can't use their normal seals.
Yeah.
And Teflon doesn't get bothered at all unless you heat it up. And of course, our stuff never gets heated up. But so what they do, just put it in a teaspoon and then take it that way. Let it go into your tongue if it's coriander. That way there's no mess and you don't have to worry about contaminating the bottle.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, intense flavor. Just the 3 drops that I took just moments ago. It's still lingering in my mouth and in my body, and it's just giving me this sort of, gentle buzz. It's
right.
Spectacular.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite. Well, we're going to be doing some small runs of hemp and also of chia seed.
So actually, I was going to ask you, Ian, about chia seed because I put it in my cereal. I take it. I hear all sorts of good things, and I thought, wow, it would be something to have. What would chia seed oil be like?
It's different. It is not like a super wow. It tastes great oil, but the thing is this: you know, when you put chia seed in water, what happens? It swells up, right?
Yep.
So it becomes very gelatinous. It just goes right through your system. You get very, very, very little nutritional benefit when you just soak them and drink them. I like them in kombucha because it's like drinking bubble tea and it's a nice,
right.
sensation, right? So, but I know
Yes.
I'm not getting any benefit other than it's helping my digestive transit time, right? But otherwise,
so the nutrition from the chia seed really doesn't make it into our body. The fiber and everything else may help us clean out stuff, but we're not really getting all the nutritional benefits that we maybe think that we would be.
Yeah, you're getting but the estimate right now is about 3% of the benefit, 3% of the value in that seed.
Wow.
So now that's if you soak it. If you grind it, you're going to get a little bit more because it's opening up the surface area. But the problem is our bodies are not designed to be able to extract the oil off the fiber. And in the oil is where all of the benefit of the chia seed is. So
I see.
when you press the oil out of the seed, your bioavailability, usability, and nutritional benefit is about 80 to 85% versus 3 to 10% at best when you're not doing that. And it's cool. The other interesting thing too, a lot of our seeds, the off-put can be used for other purposes. The chia seed output is just thrown away. We compost it, but there's no nutritional benefit left in that chia seed. So this oil extraction pressing gets it out, and that's why Andreas said he never had any oil that he actually could take and see an increase in his muscles without doing significant exercise. Now he does work, like he's pouring the seeds and he's doing this. It's not as if he's just laying around and building muscle, but he was doing that before, and then when he took the chia seed oil, he noticed a significant uptick on that after about 2 weeks. So
what you're saying, a significant increase in his muscles from the chia seed?
Well, yeah, like an uptick, right? So it wasn't, he built out about halfway back from where he was in his original athleticism. That's why I noticed the first thing, he took his coat off when because it was cold in Big Bear when he walked out of the house to meet me at the car. And we would go in, he takes his coat off, and I go, wow, what are you doing to work out, right? Because he was so changed.
And he said, I'm taking chia seed.
Well, he said, I haven't worked out in 8 years, because he didn't talk to me about chia seed right at that point. He just said, I haven't worked out in 8 years. And I went, yeah, right. Because you don't see that unless people work out.
Right.
Well, and I said, I just didn't believe him. And he goes, I haven't worked out in 8 years. He said, this is from the chia seed oil that I've been pressing. He said, that's the one thing that really noticed it changed. And I started developing muscle. He says, I do my regular work. And it's, he moves around. He's not just sitting idle.
Right. Yeah, we're not talking about someone that's laying around all the time. You're active, but the chia seed really helped.
Right. Oh, man. Cool. I think there's something pretty big with the chia seed oil.
Yeah, that sounds really exciting.
Yeah. What the problem has been is availability. And getting high-quality organic chia seed is getting harder and harder. So we're at the point right now where I think we've got a pretty good source. What we didn't want to do is we didn't want to start pressing something that we couldn't continue to press.
Right.
So I'm working hard on that. We haven't pressed any at all since I joined up with Andreas. He had a little bit left over from his original run, and I had some. I didn't really like the taste of it, but I knowing what the benefit of it is not. It's just not one of, no big deal. Just throw it in a smoothie, get it in you.
Right.
Not yet.
So tell us. Right.
Not yet.
So tell us a bit about the hemp oil.
Well, the hemp oil is interesting because we're in Canada, and pressing what's called viable hemp is the key, because hemp seeds will go off fairly quickly once they're shelled. But when you press them in the shell, which you can get a special license to do, it's not legal to just distribute viable hemp seeds. It's a licensing thing, and so even though there's no THC in them and you can't grow pot with it because it just grows a hemp seed, farmers have to have licenses and there's all those things. So the most important thing to do with hemp seed oil, and pretty much all of the hemp seed oil you see produced in Canada, is produced from viable hemp seed. So it's a grower that has a press, and they're using standard cold expeller presses to do it, and the quality is pretty good. The exciting part with us is we're going to start for the first time pressing viable hemp seed with this new technology. So it's going to be like going to the lab, and it's going to be compared to what's already being produced, and we know that it's going to be a significant upgrade. But that doesn't mean that the hemp oil being produced in Canada already isn't good. It's pretty good. But we think we're going to have an outstanding hemp seed oil with this tech.
Very neat.
Wonderful. I have asked all my questions. I don't know what else to say other than congratulations on arriving at this place, being able to contribute to humanity at this level, at this scale, with this level of products.
I only have one last thing I want to ask about, because I think it's something that's on the Life Enthusiast webpage for activation products that we haven't talked about, unless I missed it, and that is Meridium. So what is Meridium, and why should we be interested in it?
Well, Meridium is a product developed by a gentleman in Novato, California, who's a very advanced scientist, and he spent a long time getting that done. We were hoping to be able to help him get that to market. And no matter how good a product is or how bad it is, you have to do the right marketing. And that was one place where we just kept getting roadblock after roadblock with getting the marketing right. And we're so busy with our own stuff that we couldn't put the focus that we wanted to, even though we spent a very large amount of money on the sales funnel for that product. And we know it's an outstanding thing, and I'll tell you about that in a sec. We struggle with the marketing. So it's just one of those things that happens once in a while, and every
sure.
that. So and it was disappointing for him and for us. But the Meridium, which we still have some in stock, it is a super unique product because it is an extract from the oil in the pollen of a female hop flower. So it's a hops extract, and there's all kinds of people out there with hops extracts. The issue with it is it's called xanthomyl. That's the scientific term. It's not bioavailable. So if you had xanthomyl just raw in your hops extract, take all you want, it's going to basically do nothing for you. So that was a frustration point that they hit on a scientific level, that they just stopped and they gave up. Now, the scientists did not give up, but the group that was financing, and they were trying to do this, and they were trying to get it into the pharmaceutical world, they could see stuff happening in vitro, but they couldn't get it to become an actual practicality. So he kept working and working and working on it until, his name is Eric Kurtz. He got it up to a level where it was not only bioavailable, but he was able to make it water soluble and water stable as a lipid. And he could prove high value of penetration to the cell. Well, the reason that he had actually started that product was to go after metabolic issues, and saw great results with metabolic syndrome and various things that it was working with. What they didn't know is that the side benefit, which he now just loves, is it provides your body the material it needs to produce oxytocin at the level that you need it. So it's not introducing oxytocin to your system. It's introducing a material your brain is going to be able to produce it with. And it's known that in society, most people don't produce the right amount.
What is oxytocin?
They call it the love molecule or the love hormone,
Oh.
or it's the connection you have with people, right? It's not a sexual thing. It's a I mean, in sexual intercourse, of course, there's oxytocin being released. When a mother's nursing her baby, there's oxytocin being released. When they give birth to the baby, there's a massive amount of oxytocin. When a guy helps his wife with the dishes, there's a lot of oxytocin released. But there's not enough in general. So we just don't have the materials we need to produce enough. If you introduce oxytocin to a male through nebulization or intravenously, it conflicts with their testosterone production and it will get them out of whack. So that doesn't work. I mean, it helps, and people have noticed a difference, but it overall is not. It gets your genetic expression goes up. So what he found out was when you had this stuff and you're producing the exact amount you need at the right moment, it doesn't have any issue at all with testosterone for males. So that's a big plus for males. We don't produce enough of it. We don't have enough of it. And it's a very masculine thing to do that. And the women benefit tremendously. So what I noticed, and just from a testimony standpoint, I just did experiments. I would give a group of people I was with, the Meridium in their water, and it tastes like a mild beer kind of. There's no alcohol in it or anything like that, of course. And within about 10, 15 minutes, the conversation would, just pick up really nice, and then, man, the conversation would go for a couple of hours, and it was very, very good. And it just seemed that the people were better connected to each other. And then I thought, well, I found it made me think more about myself at a different level as well. So I connected with myself better, connected with others better, and that's the only thing that I personally noticed.
So this is the new date drug spike. You just go to a party, put a drop in the girl's.
No, Scott. No. This is
falls in love with you, and you're done.
Scott, forget it. This is not a pheromone. This is a bonding hormone.
It's actually believe it or not, it's the opposite of that, because what I noticed it does is it makes men more respectful. Instead of trying to hit on the girls, there's just a different level of connection. So, and the women are also, one of the things that Eric calls it is lucidin. He has that term, he wanted to brand it as lucidin, because it makes you very lucid. You're acutely aware of your surroundings.
Okay.
And, women don't like to get hit on,
No.
For the most part. I mean, of course, they like to be attractive and thought of as, attractive to the opposite sex, but they don't like to get hit on. And men are more respectful and more respectful of themselves. So that was the thing that Eric got really enthused about, because he felt that was going to be a good thing in society.
I've asked everything I wanted to ask, and I got more feedback than I thought possible. I'm very impressed, and I'm very happy to have been part of this today.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Ian, for joining us. You've been listening to the Life Enthusiast Co-op's Health Hangout, everybody. Happy that you joined us here as well, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.